Thank you, the two lovelies, for charming me here. Alright, without you, I would not be speaking here. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'm going to say something very provocative, and I'm going to warn you that you may not think the same way after listening to my talk. So, if you think that it's too dangerous stuff that I'm telling you, perhaps you should consider whether you should listen to my talk. Alright? Are you game to listen to my talk?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, we're ready. Okay. Now, what are the 4 greatest questions in our life? Anybody? Any idea?
How long will I live?
Forever.
That's a quick answer.
Forever.
Is there a higher being?
Okay. Now, let me tell you life's 4 greatest questions. Number 1. Who are we? Number 2, where do we come from? Number 3, why are we here? And number 4, where do we go? Now tonight I'm going to give you the scientific explanation, many scientific. I may not give you the answer directly, but you should be able to figure out from what I say tonight. Will that be alright?
Yep.
Now, we are known as human beings for a reason. Human refers to our physical part, and being refers to the spiritual entity. That's why I call human beings. Alright? And so, another scientific fact, a scientific fact that has been found since the atom was discovered, was that all of us, everything we see around here, this table, this lectern, anything you see, you look solid, is actually hollow. Because if you look at the structure of the atom, the only physical mass of the atom, what I call the material matter in the atom, is equivalent to a football in Telstra Stadium. If the Telstra Stadium is the atom, size of the atom, then the size of the matter, the physical matter, is equivalent to a football in Telstra Stadium. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are 99.99% hollow. You know that? Not only are we, everything we see around us, because everything is made of atoms. True? Then the question is, then why are we solid? Why are we solid? You know why? Now look at a spinning fan, a rotating fan. Is the fan solid? It could be 1 blade, 2 blades. But when it's spinning, can you put your finger through?
I wouldn't want to.
So, in the same way, the electrons that are spinning create the illusion of solidness. Just a spinning electron. We're spinning so fast, right? Because it's everything is hollow, 99.99% hollow. But because of spinning of electrons, we appear solid and to everything else. Right? That's fact number 1. Right. Fact number 2 is that we are all made of energy. Everything is converted to energy. Basically, we are all energy masses. And the latest theory in science is called the superstring theory. Everything, if you look at the ultimate, you divide atom to the smallest, at the latest count, there are 267 subatomic particles. That's the little things that are made of atoms. And they are still counting. That's why they have built the Hadron Collider in CERN, Switzerland, the biggest thing to study the smallest thing. Alright. So we are all energy matters. And according to superstring theory, there are 10 dimensions of space. And not only that, we do not live in a universe. We live in multiverses. There are multiple universes. For example, our president here, Mr. Ellis, is the Rotary Club president. In another universe, he could be the Emperor of China. Right? Because if you study quantum physics, I'm talking about quantum physics, it seems that all these things that you see around you is the matter of probability only. right? Just previously electron is supposed to fixed path, but it's a possibility of existence, right? If they go from one to another place, it's just possibility. So life itself is possibility, and the very act of observing things that condenses it to the reality, your perceived reality. So, ladies and gentlemen, scientists have come to a conclusion that we are not real. Let me repeat, we are not real. How do you define reality? It's just a perception. Everyone's reality is different. Alright? So, now this was borne out by a study by a scientist. This scientist, he studied the mouse. What he did was he kept on cutting away the brain of the mouse. He cut half, throw it away. The mouse still scamper around, living a normal life. He cut a quarter, it's still scampering around. And cuts until it has hardly any brain left. But the mouse is still surviving as usual, though a bit slow. And also, they discovered that there were people who absolutely without brains, yet they function, they study, they graduated from university.
Oh, see?
They found that the skull is practically hollow, it's all liquid, no brain. It's just a thin coating of brain cells on the brain. And also, this is scientifically determined, that each part of the brain is damaged, the other part can take over the function. So scientists, there's a famous scientist, Trebum, I think Trebum was the name of the scientist, he came to the conclusion that our brain is a hologram. You know what a hologram, ladies and gentlemen? A hologram is such that you cut away a piece and shine light on it, the whole picture still appears. You cut it again, the light still, the whole picture still appears. But the resolution will be a bit poorer. But the thing is, no matter how many pieces you cut a hologram, it still shows the complete picture. That's the definition of hologram. Then another scientist by the name of David Bohm, he came to this startling conclusion, which scientists are going to take note of. He said that it's not only our brain is hologram. Everything in the universe is a hologram. It's not real. There's a whole book written on it by Michael Talbot. It's called The Holographic Universe. You can read that. It's fantastic. Now the thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that all this research carried out are by the top-notch scientists, including several Nobel Prize winners. And the science is going to turn our perception of reality upside down. In fact, it already did. There's another scientist, and the scientist by name of Bruce Lipton, Biology of Life. He wrote a book called Biology of Life. Bruce Lipton is a molecular biologist. That means he studies cells at the molecular level. He was working in the Human Genome Project as well. So he is a very high caliber scientist. What he determined was that about the starter DNA. Where is the DNA found? You know DNA? We're supposed to blueprint our life. Is found in the nucleus of the cell. In the cell nucleus. So if DNA is that important, what happens if you remove the DNA from a cell? Will the cell survive? What do you think? Any cell you think of the nucleus, do you think it survives?
Shouldn't. No.
It survives beautifully.
Does it?
Yes. So, and it does excretion and take food, everything. Well, that was a startling revelation. All the while we thought that without nucleus, the cell will survive. But the cell can survive without its nucleus. Then what is the DNA for? Right? Well, DNA is important for replication. But I think if the cell can survive for several days at least without its DNA, without its nucleus. And have you seen a chicken? I think that there are people now ready to running around probably for several hours without its head. In early days, they chop off the head of the chicken, and the chicken still runs around. The chicken running around without its head. So the head, the brain, is supposed to be useless. That's how it is. The chicken can perform its function running around without its head. All right. So what Bruce Lipton discovered was that DNA does not determine your genetic setup so much. Because a lot of people say that if my parents died of cancer, that I might have the cancer genes. It's a pure rubbish. There's no such thing. It is a belief that you inherit the genes that bring about the cancer, not your genes itself. It's about stimulus response. Right? It's how you respond to stimulus. And if you can watch all this on YouTube. Actually, Bruce Lipton has a fantastic series of YouTube movies which you can watch. Explains it much better than I could. It's fantastic. So don't for a moment adopt the fatalistic attitude that because you inherit these genes, you have this, that sickness, that sickness. Pure rubbish. And this is proven by top scientists. Don't ever believe that. You are the creator of your own reality. Right? So, I think a good example is Mr. Tan Lam Seng here. He talked about his breast. I thought only that one was in fact woman, but somehow. Now, the thing is that it is all about belief. That's why I wrote a book called Biology of Belief. We are not passive passengers in the universe. We are the co-creators in the universe. We co-create, we expand the universe to consciousness. So the universe is nothing but pure consciousness. Alright, and this is being proven time and again to study. They have done an experiment known as the intention experiment. And this is called the square root of one principle. For example, during the Israeli and Palestinian crisis war, where they have war and all that, a group of cells formed themselves known as the Global Consciousness Project. What they did was to get 1,000 people or so to focus at the same time on peace in the Middle East. And it works. And they went to Chicago and they did the same thing. And for that period, the crime rate went drastically down. So, ladies and gentlemen, do we need more police for peace? Do we need more soldiers? Perhaps we need better intentions, and we have more people to have better intentions. And the group is still going on. I think there is a global consciousness project, and this is making global impact. Because the whole concept of the universe, the concept of life, concept of reality is undergoing tremendous transformation. What you see is not real, and what is not real may be real. Alright? So the whole world has turned upside down. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you can see actually clues that are happening in the world today. What are the clues? Don't we have the internet? And what does the internet do? It links everybody together. It's like a global brain. Agree? It's like a global brain because you tap into billions and billions of pages of information. And very soon, according to I think the editor of Wired magazine, Calvin, and he said that ultimately, within 25 years probably, the global brain will be faster than all our brains combined. And that could be the clue to where we come from. And how does life begin? Where do we come from? The current theory is about the Big Bang. At that point in time, we call it singularity, pop, everything was created. And we are all born from the stars because we have evidence of elements that were born from the stars. Because all elements are made by the explosion of stars. Right? Magnesium, calcium, strontium, aluminum, whatever. They are created from the explosion of stars. So in our bodies, we have the remnants of the exploding stars. Right? And so is that the oxygen we breathe in, but the same oxygen that was breathed in by the dinosaurs 100, 200 years, million years ago. Now, where does this bring us? Why are we here? What is the purpose of human existence? There are many. That's where the International Interspirituality Council comes in. They have the theme that says it's not about unity, it's about harmony. It's not about consensus, it's about convergence. If you study the ancient wisdom of the Chinese, the Greek, the Indians, and all those Oriental wisdom, I have done some study of Taoism, the Book of Chinese I Ching, I think one of the most incredible books ever written. Kabbalah, Jewish wisdom, the Hindu things, Buddhism, and all that thing. And what it says is that we are all one. And we will go back to be one. We are created out of that global consciousness, and we are part, and we go back to that global consciousness. Remember, we are human beings. The being part of us never ever dies. We are eternal. We live forever. The spiritual part of it. And studies of near-death experience. They have done hundreds of thousands of studies of near-death experience. Probably confirm this fact. What happens is that when a person experiences near-death, for example, the wife of my friend, close friend, actually she died at childbirth. At the point of death, she actually hovered above body and was able to listen and see everything that's happening. Well, some people say, well, maybe it's hallucination. The brain isn't a hallucination. True or not? It could be hallucination, because under the gas and so on, maybe anesthetic or something, it could be hallucination. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's not hallucination because the brain signal is flat, indicating death. So the brain is not active. So how can it be hallucination when a brain is not active? It's technically brain dead. Now, the stories record of all near-death experiences are technically the same. They hover above the body, they see a bright light, and they go towards it. Right? And then there's amazing, indescribable feeling of well-being, indescribable feeling of happiness, joy, and all that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the purpose of life here. To experience ultimate joy, love, happiness. The thing is, don't need to die to experience that. We can experience that when we are here on this earth itself. And that's our mission on this earth. To live a life of joy, fulfillment, happiness. And you look at a lot of this ancient wisdom, all figures the same thing. So that is where our purpose in life is. And our purpose here, in order to experience joy, love, and happiness, what is it that we need to do? We have to show compassion. True. Because I remember this famous song by Barbra Streisand. People needing people are the happiest people in the world. So if you show compassion to your fellow beings, like Rotary is doing, I think Rotary is a magnificent organization because you are doing so much good to the world, and that fulfills a major mission in life. I congratulate you, all of you. Rotary, you are fantastic. Now, coming back to science again. There are so many experiments being done in science today. And all these are double gold standards of scientific research. Because when you talk about these things, what happens? People are very skeptical. So because people are skeptical about such research, they're doubly sure that it is foolproof, that you cannot pick any holes in it. And one of the experiments carried out was called the reverse intention experiment. They asked a famous doctor, a heart doctor, specialist, to conduct experiment. They say, what happens is you divide your patients into two groups. One, where you pray for them and wish them well and also on, and the other one neutral, normal, and see what happens. Now, this doctor is a very skeptical doctor. He said, this is all nonsense. I won't believe in it. So what he did was, he used his patient's file that was 30 years old. This is quite an old doctor, right? Experienced doctor. 30 years ago, this is patient's record. He just give the name. He didn't know the record, give the name. And so they carried out an experiment. Now, amazingly, the thing is that the future does change the past, influence the past, because what they discovered was that the intention experiment actually works in the past. You know what I mean? Because this record are 30 years ago. Yet when they opened up and examined the records, they found that those who have been prayed, those who have intention by others to be well, actually recover much faster, which previously they did not study, because they just record them, not really analyzing. So the past can influence the future. Now, I was fortunate to organize the visit of Stephen Hawking to Malaysia many years ago. I was in organizing committee. And Stephen Hawking is an amazing person. And he does not believe in time travel. But after I met him, and several years later, I was flying to London, and on the way back, I opened the Times newspaper, or the major newspaper, and right on the headline that Stephen Hawking believes in time travel. And according to the quantum theory, he finds that the past, present, and future actually exist on the same plane. You can switch from past to present and all that. And time is immaterial in the real world. What we are living is a virtual world actually. We are not living in the real world. So ladies and gentlemen, what is the implication for us? Right. Is there a God? Well, there is, and we are it. We are part of God because we are the co-creators of the universe. God is in us, in every wish of every one of us. Right? In everything. I remember William Blake is famous, very spiritual man. He says, to hold the world in a grain of sand, to see the world in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. William Blake. So, every molecule has in it, or every atom, imprint of the universe, just like a hologram piece. So everything is related. We are all one. There's no such thing as race, distinction. There's no such thing as religion. We are all one, and God is in us. And to discover that God is in us, sometimes we need to still our mind. We need to be silent. Meditation is one form. And I had the privilege to meet a person who is a channeler. You know what a channeler? A channeler is a person who can communicate with his being. You know, there are two forms, the human and the being, isn't it? There's a spiritual entity, the higher entity, that is everlasting, for lives forever. And this entity speaks through him and he writes books. Right? I'll get his permission if you want. Maybe email the book to you. I think he will keep his book free. And he has even written a book on how to be a channeler. To channel things from your higher conscious self so that you can share the wisdom of the universe. If you read Abraham Hicks' book, have you read Abraham Hicks' book? Right, the husband and wife, they claim that all the writings are based on communication with the higher self. And ladies and gentlemen, all of us have the ability to the higher self. And according to this scientist, and based on ancient wisdom, we say the year to watch is the year 2012. Because in 2012, our solar system will be in alignment with the Milky Way galaxy itself. This is, well, many predictions that come and gone through, Armageddon, and the end of the universe and all that coming. But this 2012, they say, will not end in destruction. It will end in rejuvenation, because the world will be reborn, spirituality, people will be aware of the ultimate purpose in life, and also, based on studies, they say that the world magnetic field could be reversed. You know, there's a North Pole, South Pole. In fact, that thing is moving. Those who are doing navigation will know that the magnetic north is always moving. You have to correct it all the while. And it hasn't done for, I think, thousands of years since it's time that the North-South Pole will reverse during that 2012. And there will be lots of happening, but in the end, ladies and gentlemen, it's very optimistic, because 2012, if and when it occurs, will bring about a better world for all of us. Thank you.
Blown me out of my molecules, I can tell you.
Amazing.
That's deep.
Did make it think.
It doesn't look like we've got any questions for you, but so I'm going to ask Ross to give appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Whitehead, it's my pleasure tonight to, on behalf of the next event, thank you for talking to all these people.